content. Actually, not cut content. It's just Echidnut video. Reaction analysis of episode 12. Let's go.
Okay, this really was the best episode of ReZero season.
So far. Come on, it's just a running gag now. Every new episode is the best episode so far. There's gonna be another episode that surpasses it, but there's a good chance it might not actually happen. Because there are known production issues that's gonna be happening for episode 13 and 14. Which I feel like, you know, that's Wilhelm's episode. Wilhelm, probably Reinhardt and Teresa episodes, right? Along with Garfield. Feeling like those episodes might get shafted. So fingers crossed that something can peak this.
3 so far. Today we witnessed the greatest crash out of all time and the end of Regulus Corneus.
He's
a
done.
man with so much drip, yet so little aura. Wife number 184 is named Sylphie, and unfortunately it seems that not every Sylphie could cure their husband's erectile dysfunction. Regulus went cave diving this episode.
True, and also, yeah, the cave diving memes are so popular right now. I don't know why, but cave diving memes, bro, they're everywhere on TikTok and Shorts. And then you just happen to adapt the one episode that Regulus dies while cave diving. That's unreal.
And then died in the only hole he's ever been in. Reinhardt is officially an
limp dick, can't cure, and in the only hole he's ever been in. It's actually so sad and pathetic how he died. Like, his treatment was just as bad as how he treated his wives. And all the wives, when they were like about to die, as Regulus was about to depose them, they all laughed at him too. So like, this man, bro, like his depiction at the end, like everything crumbled. No aura, no bitches, no respect, no nothing.
Ever been in. Reinhardt is officially an astronaut. His wife wants to fuck a ground dragon.
Yeah, true.
Turned into Muhammad Ali, and Subaru got impact frames. There's just so many highlights. It's amazing episodes like this one that make me proud to call myself a retard. Crunchyroll even dropped a brand new banger
They did. I was watching it and I was like, what the fuck do you mean? How do you have the authority of greed? But it's Crunchyroll, you know, it's to be expected at this point.
Translation error. This week, Regulus, the Archbishop of Pride, says, "How do you have my
Archbishop of Pride mentioned again, Crunchyroll L's
authority?" Implying that Subaru and Emilia have his authority, when in reality he was just wondering what happened to it. Which might not seem like a big deal, but they do this shit every week, and it's so bad that some people actually think it's intentional. Anyway,
man, that would be insidious. Someone over there just hates ReZero so much that they're intentionally doing this. Here's a conspiracy theory. Someone inside wants the downfall of Crunchyroll to happen, and they intentionally make fumbles like this, and they chose ReZero because it's a very hot topic. I mean, they could be doing that to solo leveling as well too, right? But just imagine that there's like an inside mole that's intentionally doing this to make Crunchyroll look even worse.
This is the first time Regulus has felt pain in over 100 years. I loved the animation this episode, and I'm so happy that they actually let Emilia land all 53 punches.
Yep.
It's so satisfying to see Regulus actually taking damage, but damn, that had to be one of the most brutal death scenes of all time.
It was really raw. Like, I was expecting someone, I thought that Subaru might die drowning. Like Pristella, the city of water. I thought that for sure Tape would make a really like desperate, anxious, drowning scene happen, because he loves to, you know, explore all these different types of deaths possible with Subaru. Like, for example, the Great Rabbit. Oh my god, that shit. The way it went up his gat and then just ate us from with inside out. That's insane. So I thought that like for sure someone would drown. Little did I know that would be Regulus. It's so sad and pathetic again how he died, and it's so perfect to wrap up this arc. Salute to Regulus, but he really deserved every one of this and more.
Had to be one of the most brutal death scenes of all time. So now that he's dead, I can just talk about this freely. Lion's Heart was Regulus's ability to stop the time of his body, heart, and anything he touches. And Little King was his ability to put his heart into his wife's body. Which is actually the only thing he's ever put inside a woman. And he did it to keep his own heart beating, because without Little King, Regulus could only use Lion's Heart for 5 seconds at a time, or else he would die of heart failure. But because he's never deactivated Little King before, he doesn't know how to use Lion's Heart on other objects without Little King. He just never bothered to learn, because Little King has always been active for the past 100 years.
My man has been carried so hard by his authorities that he had no proficiency with anything. Truly the most boosted, elo carried character.
Probably barely remembers how to walk without it. It's like if you tried gooning to your imagination again after using porn for 100 years, which
What an example. I see it though.
explains why he didn't just kill Subaru and Emilia with his breath this episode. So, in the novel, what exactly happens here is that Regulus activates Lion's Heart on himself in the same tick that Reinhardt hits him. So, instead of just hitting the ground really hard and causing a crater or something, he just goes inside the ground because his authority prevents outside resistance. Except he realizes that he has no way of stopping his momentum if he deactivates it. And he needs to deactivate it for two reasons: heart failure and the fact that he's about to go through the bottom of the world into the Great Waterfall.
That's right. This is, a flat world. The ReZero world is a flat world. And man, it was so like raw and painful to hear all those bone crunching effects when he undid his power there, and then he stops, and it just, I'm like, oh god, it's so nasty.
So when he deactivates Lion's Heart, the speed and momentum shatter every bone in his body. Now he's boneless in multiple ways. In the novel, it says his body became a mash of meat stained with blood, piss, and shit. That's like an
piss and shit mentioned. And the best part is how like he was all decked out in white, and he started to get all dirty, and it just, oh my god, piss shit everywhere. He basically became like a deformed zombie like Elsa at the end of season 2.
insult Capella would say to somebody. By the way, fantastic visuals during this entire sequence.
Yeah.
In the novel, Regulus was actually drinking this water because it tasted so good to him after not being able to drink it for over 100 years. I think he went a lot deeper in the novel too, and kept using his authority.
Yeah, I guess he never really had to drink or eat anything. But that's like pleasures of the world that you just miss out on.
In 5-second increments to try and make it back to the surface, eventually hitting water. And for some reason, that reminded me of Minecraft, when you're mining straight up and then water pours in and you start drowning. That's exactly how Regulus dies. His last thoughts of Emilia, suddenly realizing that she was that lolly from the forest 100 years ago. And almost poetically, Emilia can't fucking remember him at all. And that's not because Pandora erased her memories.
It's the trials being very hazy.
Pandora only erased herself from Emilia's memories. The reason Emilia can't remember Regulus is simply because Regulus is just that forgettable as a person.
Really? I mean, in the light novels, they said that this man is the most boring, bland-looking person for whatever reason, that the light novel artist decided to deck him out and make him look really cool. But okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I think in the beginning, they were talking about how, like, in the beginning of the season, I think Emilia mentioned, like, oh, memories are so hazy that I can't remember all the things. But damn, just more disrespect to Regulus.
Something that gets me unbelievably hyped is watching Subaru actually use his authority. Every time. It's like he waits until I've completely forgotten that he even has that ability, and then he whips it out. I mean, he's had this shit since the end of season 1, and yet every time he uses it, it still surprises me.
There was a really good moment against Garfield when the Invisible Providence came out and clutched, right? After that, it's kind of just doesn't, it just kind of exists there. But this time he actually accepted Unseen Hand, as if like paying tribute to Betelgeuse, right? And even Emilia was able to see Juice there, and there was some closure there.
I did think this was a very beautiful narrative moment though.
This was like the best of Subaru too, I think. The best that he looked. A lot of people thirst for Subaru in the beginning of like the serious fights. I think that episode 2, right, where Reinhardt cuts down and Subaru falls down, and everyone was thirst posting of like, oh my god, Subaru is so despaired and shocked and dying, looks so hot with his hair, falling down. Anyways, this angle when he was like about to use his power too, the way that the camera zoomed in and hair was flowing, it looked sick.
Beautiful narrative moment though, because the name Subaru gave the ability is Invisible Providence, but
yeah.
Betelgeuse named it the Unseen Hand. And because Regulus was making fun of Betelgeuse,
kind of like, hey, don't shit on our boy.
Just this one time, Subaru calls it the Unseen Hand, using Betelgeuse's name for the ability just to spite Regulus. He really unlocked a new level of pettiness there, but also gave some necessary closure to the 100-year beef between Betelgeuse and Regulus. Also, the Sloth factor did something interesting in the novel here. It said that Subaru felt it cheer and rejoice, and that the Witch factor felt gratitude towards Subaru for—
What? The Witch factor, which is the source of the authority, is like sentient? It can feel stuff? it's like a living thing. I thought that it was just like a little bit like a catalyst, something that you absorb and just like you get the powers, but it's happy.
calling
Thank you, Shinokin, for the prime sub. I appreciate that, man.
upon it. So if the witch factors are sentient, then that really makes me wonder what they actually are. Like, were they made from living beings?
I don't know.
Or maybe they just adopt part of the personalities of the people that used them. Let me know if anyone has a theory, but while we're on the subject of
I got no clue. What I'm really confused about is what's happening to the other witch factors. We're not completely sure if Sirius is dead or not, because it's not like completely just confirmed her death like Regulus, right? Regulus, I'm pretty sure, has died. We saw all the details. He's done. Sirius just got slashed up and she got dumped into the water, but there's a good chance that she could be alive. Anyways, what happens to those authorities? Before, Subaru basically did rental Goa to Betelgeuse and he died. But the soul, but when he did that, we also like signed his gospel with our blood and red. And somehow, some way, the witch factor, right, was transferred to him. The authority was given to him. Somehow. I don't know if proximity matters, but we got it there. And then later on, Echidna teaches us that, hey, it's there, and then she stimulates it, and she stabilizes it. So, like, what about Regulus's? What about Sirius potentially if she's dead? Isn't Subaru thematically supposed to be the person who is a uniter that goes on to collect all the different, authorities and unites all the witches and brings peace, right? Isn't that the guy that he is? So I wonder what's going to happen with the authority of greed. Did we get it? Is it just lost forever? Why are they all going for Tifon's remains as well, right? I thought that some people were saying like maybe that there's like her remains, right? Her bones or whatever. You can basically like retrieve the authority or witch factor that way, but we'll have to see with more time.
Of witch factors, you know that guy we just killed? Remember? He had white hair, no aura, tons of drip. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He looked kinda just like a regular. Yeah, that was his name, Regular. Yeah, didn't that guy have a fucking witch factor? Last time we killed an archbishop, the witch factor just appeared.
That's what I'm
Subaru,
saying.
but this time Subaru didn't deliver the final hit. So who gets kill credit here? Could it be Reinhardt, who by the way was aura farming heavy this episode?
Doesn't need to be the person that kills that the witch factor goes to? Isn't Subaru pretty compatible with... No. It said that he's not really compatible with it, right? I don't know. I thought that since it's like a sentient thing, it chooses its owner. So even if Reinhardt is the one that delivered the final blow, maybe the witch factor would still choose Subaru some way.
Standing on top of Regulus in the sky was probably the hardest album cover I've ever seen. It's also interesting that the moon is round because, like I said, the ReZero world
is flat, so the moon is not flat. Anyways.
Is flat, which is one of the reasons Regulus...
Well, we don't know that just yet. We don't know if the moon is actually round or not, because here's the thing, right? Here's the thing with this. This could be like a much like... It doesn't need to be 2D line. It can be like a little concave shape, but still kind of flat. You know what I mean? So like this thing, yeah, it's got some curvature, but it doesn't really prove that it is spherical unless we zoomed out, unless the light novel also confirmed that it was.
Hero world is flat, which is...
Yeah, I'm thinking like a disc, just a little bit of volume, like a space saucer, not completely like round, but more flattened, right? Not a complete 2D line.
It's one of the reasons Regulus had to deactivate Lion's Heart when he went cave diving. He thought he was gonna go through the bottom of the world and fall into the Great Waterfall, which is how Sekhmet died. I don't think she fell though. I think Echidna pushed her. Now, remember in episode 6 when Regulus tried to kill Sylphie, and I didn't even notice this at the time, but a lot of you pointed...
She smiled at relief. And all the wives laughed at him, right, before their death, which haunts Regulus.
Out in the comments that she actually smiles right at the last second. And thank you, by the way. That's the exact reason I still read all the comments. At first, I thought this just meant Sylphie was happy to die and finally be free of Regulus, but now I view it as more of an outright protest against Regulus, mocking him for being unable to make a woman happy except when setting them free from his endless torment.
This was such a good scene too. Beautiful imagery. Blood red, all washed out colors, all the wives smiling. Very sinister smile too, which haunts Regulus. And it just kind of adds that like, hey, this guy has always sucked. This dude that you thought was so powerful, that got so many wives and seems to live the best life ever, he was always the most insecure loser who never had respect of anybody and just constantly wanted, control and power over others because of this insecurity. Just more things to make you realize that, man, what a pathetic person. That's very pitiful.
Torment. Now, a lot of Regulus's monologue was cut from the anime. Obviously, I don't
That's
think
crazy. That's crazy considering the amount of yapping he was doing the entire episode as he's flying upwards.
anyone surprised by that. The whole episode would have just been Regulus
Jesus.
yapping if they kept the entire rant, but the one really interesting part that they cut was when Regulus mentions his family. Before he got his witch factor, he had a normal life in a village with his family. Apparently, his dad had a problem with drinking and he didn't earn a lot of money, but he still bought Regulus
Paul being shit on out of nowhere. But hey, rejoice, Paul enjoyers. Paul Tensei is happening. That's right. From middle-aged bumpkin anime, whatever. There's a new isekai, fantasy isekai. I don't know if it's isekai. Paul's the main character there.
earn a lot of money, but he still bought Regulus a present every once in a while. His mother had a habit of complaining a lot, but she still apologized to Regulus because she knew it was troubling him. His brothers were selfish, and I guess they took his toys and stuff, but they still shared their food with Regulus whenever he was hungry. And although that doesn't sound like the best family ever, it also doesn't sound that bad. I mean, I expected his backstory to be littered with abuse and trauma, but...
Which makes it maybe even funnier. The fact that he had lived such a, honestly, quite a simple and decent life. Not the best, but not the worst. It's kind of like those wannabe gangsters that you see. And you would think that, how do kids become gangsters? How do they join, crime organizations? Because of extreme poverty and no other choices. Quite often, these wannabe gangsters, bro, they come from like middle class, like suburban families. They're just like stupid, spoiled kids who wants like clout and wants to look cool. So in that example, Regulus is kind of like that too. Bro had like no reason to really be crashing out like this. He had a pretty bland backstory. Nothing so tragic, nothing so poverty ridden, but he just decided to become like this.
Instead, it sounds like he was just part of a normal low-income family. And yet, the moment Regulus got his witch factor, he immediately killed everyone.
Jesus Christ. Wonder how he got his witch factor. Right? I mean, that means that someone must have give it to him, right? You don't just encounter it. Did Pandora show up with the box saying, hey, pick this up?
Killed his entire family, killed the entire village, killed the entire town, and even destroyed the entire country. Regulus is just absolutely heartless. A lot of you told me you didn't really like how goofy they made Regulus, and how the anime seems to have lost its seriousness, but I think that...
Isn't that the point, though? Like, the entire point was to just destroy this character. Not just physically, but his entire character. To strip him of all his dignity and any sort of aura that he may have assumed to be had, right? There is one thing that I was thinking about this last night. And I was like, doesn't it feel like it's a bit too easy recently? It's not even a complaint, it's just an observation because of how much ReZero we just continue to suffer and suffer and suffer and how hard it is. For sure, like the White Whale subjugation, we one-tapped that, but it took a lot of suffering to get over that, right? Then the Betelgeuse subjugation, a couple tries, but it got there, right? Season 2, first half, holy shit, that was eternal suffering. Then the second half, it's pop off, right? Little to no failures and we just fucking raw dog it. Season 3, yeah, they're definitely in the first half. There has been struggles. We did get bodied, and the most time the Subaru died was episode 2 against Sirius. But after that, it's honestly been pretty decent. And yeah, we gotta think about why is it easy. We got Reinhardt. We got all other, candidates as well. You consider what happened in season 2. Subaru was just basically by himself with this fucking pervert clown trying to get in his way at every step of the way. Then Otto, and then Garfield later on, and right, Amelia gets her shit together. But like, it is quite shocking how much of a steamroll it is right now. Like it's just, and I think that's the whole point, right? This is the payoff period. We already kind of struggled back in the first half. This is the moment when we're popping off. But to me, it just, I think it's the thing with Subaru not dying and repeating it. I'm just so used to all the loops that happened before that Subaru basically, like ever since episode 2, bro, it has been peak. Bro, it's just perfect run. And I think that the authors are intentionally also trying to do it because it's a straight bet theme, right? We're not supposed to abuse this power, try to make everyone count. But also there's been these irreversible things that's been added to Subaru, whether it be the Dragon's Blood curse, right? Stuff like that I think is so important to the story that we can't just like loop right now and just like just get rid of that. So I wonder where the checkpoint is right now. Surely we're not gonna redo the Regulus fight, so I'm gonna assume that the checkpoint is basically right now as soon as we beat Regulus, but I don't think that we're even gonna die. I think that this arc will finish without us dying, and we'll just clear it.
That was mainly just for Regulus because they wanted us to laugh at him along with his dead wives. This episode was so good that it made me jealous though. Regulus.
Yeah, the laughing part I think is so important because Regulus monologuing, it felt like he was breaking the fourth wall and telling us, the audience, through the screen, why are you laughing at me? Stop laughing at me.
His monologue was so perfect, I can't help but wish Echidna got the same treatment last season. And Subaru's Invisible Providence scene this episode was almost identical to the one in season 2, except it looked way better this time. I'll talk about this more.
Love the laser again. The whole scene with Subaru, you know, with the hair flowing and the camera angle going in, it was so cool.
More during my final review of this season, but damn, guys, we only have 4 episodes left.
No!
Wrath and Greed have been defeated, and it looks like next episode we're going to be fighting Kurgan and Theresia. Super hyped for that, but thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you next time.
I don't want to spread negativity, but I think it's important to be aware of what's happening behind the scenes because episode 13 and 14, production issues apparently are apparent. Now, doesn't mean that the episodes are going to be bad, but just be aware that the next 2 episodes, if something is off, there are production issues. And the reason why, you know, Arc 6 is rebranded, not part of season 3, but a separate season as season 4. The overall episode, though, it was so hype. It's so fun right now. ReZero was actually so fun. But it's a little bit like, in the back of my mind, something is very unsettling because of how seemingly easy it has been recently, where I'm like, are we going to get punished for this? I don't think so. Maybe this arc, it's a smooth sailing on, we pop off. I still think that if anyone's going to die, Wilhelm is a perfect candidate to die. Something about Wilhelm dying alongside with Theresia, getting some kind of closure, and Reinhard being there and Wilhelm's death, you know, maybe there's some sort of like closure there for the, you know, grandson-grandfather drama that was happening. I think thematically it makes sense for Wilhelm to die if there is a character to die, but personally, I don't want him to die. I want everybody to survive. I want everybody to roll through this shit. And season 4, that's when the peak suffering will begin. Here is the link to Echidnut's video. Please go give the video a like, subscribe to the channel for more ReZero content, and I will see you next time.